This happened my sophomore year of high school, at least the spring half. My sister used to say this was my proudest moment because I worked really hard. My high school gave me off-campus lunch privileges because of my grades were above normal for being a learning disabled kid. Getting a B average is what is allowable for it for sophomores and freshmen. I also got to be a teacher's aide in the special education department along with tutoring upon request. It was awesome, and for most of January to about April, my friends who had a car would drive to my house because my mom was a great cook and loved serving us. But there was one issue. It was boy in the special ed room called Cody. His mother was one of the special ed teachers, and she was annoying as hell because she always tried to include Cody in everything. She was one of those entitled special needs moms. She also had Cody follow me at lunch when I ate in the cafeteria, and he always weaseled his way to sit with the rest of the marching band kids. He would get upset if we talked about music or who was trying out for drum manager because it did not include him. I was in band since freshman year and was considered older by my quiet nature. Though my band friends never escaped the fact my mom was the one who fed us in the summer during the marching field exercises, so we made plans when my off-campus access was allowed to see my mom. Of course, Cody told his mother, who asked me when I was working in the special ed room, "So, are you and your friends taking Cody too?" Wait, no, he doesn't have off-campus. Sorry, I pointed to the rules regarding it. If he maintained a B average like I did, he could. She crossed her arms and told me I had to include him because he was his friend or else. I told her no and went forward with plans. On the day I went to sign out and noticed something was odd when the school secretary took me aside. She called my mom, who was basically the one who made the plans with my friends and I. She was there in almost 5 minutes with food for me. Apparently, Cody's mom decided to use my learning disabilities as a reason to remove my off-campus rights. I worked 6 months to get these privileges and they were removed all because I wouldn't take Cody with me. I was pissed and decided to make it known in the worst way I could. Who was going to talk to Cody? Was all Cody's mom asked when she saw the signatures and couldn't get her way. Eventually my off-campus was returned a month later when my English teacher started to fight it, she said. I worked entirely too hard. I still maintained the B average and also refused to go to the special ed room for tutoring if Cody was there. By junior year, off-campus was allowed without the B average, but I was still pissed at Cody and his mother. Worked hard and she decided to use my own weakness against me for the most petty reasons. I really hope nobody has to go through that kind of BS if they are a student aide. I hope these policies changed at my high school. I wrote about Beelzabitch last night shitting herself at her cousin's wedding. It got me thinking about other instances where she couldn't stand not being the center of attention and would do anything and everything in her power to get attention, even if it was negative. I remembered my eldest son's 5th Halloween, the year before we moved out. My father's family had been pretty distant from us for a number of years, but they wanted to extend an invitation for us to attend their annual Halloween party as an olive branch. My dad left when I was young and died in a car accident a year later. Because he and my mother were still technically married, she got a lot of money from his life insurance and we lived comfortably before she squandered most of the money on her gambling addiction. Bitter over the breakup, my mother wouldn't let my dad's family have anything to do with us. My siblings were okay with it, but I always missed them. When we got the invite to the Halloween party, I of course was happy to attend with my son. I had only intended for me and my son to attend, but Beelzabitch wheels spinning, but the hamster is dead in the attic, insisted she and my siblings had to come too. She demanded we all go as a theme to appear like we are a unified family. We all have to look alike. I want them to see just how great we are without them in our lives. We all decided on the Little Mermaid to shut her up. I went as Ariel, my son went as King Triton, my brother Beelzebastard and sister Beelzebrat went as Flotsam and Jetsam, and Beelzabitch went as Ursula. Fitting. My son chose our costumes for us. He had a stuffed Sebastian toy, so he brought it with him. Beelzabitch was on the larger side, and her hair and makeup looked exactly as you would expect a live-action version of Ursula to look. I was so uncomfortable in my seashell bra and tail skirt, I felt really exposed. When we got to the party, my relatives greeted us happily. They commented on how much we've grown from the last time they saw us and couldn't believe I was a mother. They fawned over my son, giving him compliments and fussing over how adorable he was. He soaked it all up. He was always a friendly, outgoing kid. He was introducing his Sebastian stuffy to everyone. It was too cute. He was too cute in his green mermaid tail and giant beard. I was still wearing my coat because I was so uncomfortable in my outfit. I wasn't fat, but I wasn't skinny either and had a belly. Beelzabitch was soaking in whatever attention was coming her way, modeling her costume like she were at Paris Fashion Week and drinking heavily from the liquor table. My siblings stuck by her practically the whole time while I was escorting my son to all of the family members who wanted to meet him. At some point in the evening, one of my relatives commented on why I was still wearing my coat. I told them I didn't really feel comfortable taking it off as was feeling a bit self-conscious. Beelzabitch heard this and told me to take it off. I said no and we got into a spat over it. She eventually grabbed my coat and tried tearing it off of me. The struggle caused the seashell bra to nearly fall off and I had to run into the bathroom to adjust it. I was pissed and embarrassed. A bunch of my relatives began giving Beelzabitch a hard time about it, but she brushed it off and kept drinking, thinking the whole thing was hilarious. When I came out of the bathroom, I found Beelzabitch complaining to my grandparents about how hard her life has been since their sperm donor son had left her with 3 kids and that the only consolation she got was the insurance payout. Of course, neglecting to admit that he left because she is certifiably batshit insane. She then drunkenly demanded more money from them, claiming she deserved it because her kids were nothing more than leeches on her ass. I was working at the time and paid rent. My siblings were the leeches, not me. My grandparents reluctantly offered to help with a little bit of money and gave her a check for $2,500. That wasn't good enough for Beelzabitch. As my relatives were still fussing over my son. Beelzabitch got jealous and started wailing. Overly dramatic, overly exaggerated crying. She was so hammered from how much she had been drinking that she no longer had a filter and couldn't control the volume of her voice. She began shit-talking everyone at the party and they were clearly able to hear her. My grandparents kindly asked her to calm down and she pointed her finger at them, calling them deadbeats and selfish C-words. She screamed at them about how their son had left her with a bunch of unwanted-ish holes for children, talking about my siblings and I and how her life got destroyed because of them, and the only reason she bothered coming was in hopes of getting a bunch of money to make up for the years of suffering she endured as a single mother. The $2,500 wasn't enough and she deserved more. I need to pay bills to keep a roof over my head. Don't you even care? Your son didn't and left us. Now he's dead and I'm stuck. Sure, Beelzabitch, sure. Someone in the crowd chimed in. No wonder. Look at how you behave. Beelzabitch went total cat butt faced. I was embarrassed and my siblings just sat quietly and said nothing. My relatives began yelling at Beelzabitch, calling her names and giving her the treatment she so rightly deserved. She began crying and wailing about how unfair everyone was being to her. She threatened to call the police, to which a relative claimed they already had. We were all asked to leave by my grandparents, even me and my son. I felt awful. I had to play damage control with the police once they got there, as my siblings were too busy trying to comfort Beelzabitch. As I was driving everyone home, Beelzabitch was drunkenly bragging about ruining the party, gleeful in the knowledge that she burned that bridge and she got money out of it. I tried calling my grandparents many times after that to apologize, but they wouldn't answer my calls. To this day, they still won't talk to me and I can't really blame them. I did talk to my dad's sister though. My mother tried cashing the check, but the check was voided by my grandfather through his bank. My dad's sister told me that he called the bank the following morning and refused payment on the check, so it was voided out. She would have just taken it to the casino anyway, so no great loss. I realized that my father leaving looks bad on him, but in truth, I don't really remember it. I was very young, and all I had to go on is what Beelzabitch told me, and given her nature, she wasn't honest about the situation. My dad's sister did tell me that the two of them cheated on each other multiple times and fought a lot. They got married way too young, straight out of high school. Both were neither mature or stable enough to handle it. Beelzabitch made life unbearable for him. He was often working, and she was spending money they couldn't afford. Sometimes they didn't have the money to pay rent and he would have to beg his parents for it. On the day my aunt left, she told me that they had a big fight and that she had black eyes and a broken nose as a result. He asked for the rent of the bar. He said no, and the girl blew up and started beating him. He packed his things and left.